Republicans dead. Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay?
The women with the least likelihood of getting pregnant are the ones most worried about having abortions.
On January 6th of 2021, you had tens of thousands of people peacefully protesting.
No, it's not a right-wing conspiracy theory. It's not QAnon. It's real.
Well, folks, 3 years ago this week, one nation invaded another. One dictator ordered an assault on a democratic country. 3 years ago was the beginning of a campaign of indiscriminate bombings, missile attacks, all targeting civilians. 3 years ago, Vladimir Putin, Donald Trump's new best ally and close friend, Vladimir Putin, the Russian dictator who murders his political opponents, imprisons reporters, cheats in elections at scale, and who has for 25 years ruled Russia with an iron fist, adopted by Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio and Stephen Witkoff and the whole cavalcade of low wattage people around Trump. It was Vladimir Putin who invaded Ukraine. Let's be very clear. Russia is a dictatorship. Ukraine is not. Russia is the aggressor in this case. Ukraine is not. The Ukrainian people are some of the bravest human beings I know. And I know a lot of Ukrainians, and I'm friends with a lot of Ukrainians, a lot of folks in country. And I knew the minute those tanks rolled over the border, this was going to be a close thing in the early going. And even my Ukrainian friends were terrified. I spoke to a guy, I'm not going to identify him too much, but academic in Ukraine. I was talking to him on Signal as the tanks were coming down towards Hostomel before the Russians were defeated at Hostomel. And they thought they'd be in Kyiv in a day or two. They really did. They were convinced those Russian tanks would roll into Kyiv in a day or two. And I said, get out. You got to get out. You got to get your family. You got to get out. And he said, no, I'm not leaving. He's my age, a little older than me, maybe. He said, I'm not leaving. I'm like, what the F are you going to do? And I didn't hear from him for about a week after he sent this message, because his apartment building is a long story. He's okay. His family's okay. The last message was, I'm teaching my students how to make Molotov cocktails. I'm going to teach my students how to make AMPHO, which is simple explosive. And we're going to stick it out. And weirdly, I knew at that moment, Ukraine could not be defeated by Russia. And we've seen it over and over and over again on the battlefield. Vastly outnumbered, vastly outgunned, vastly outmanned. And every time the Ukrainians have innovated, they've overcome, they've adapted to their circumstances, they've engaged in a war that has taken Russian lives. By 1 million Russian soldiers have died on a foolish errand by an old man in Moscow. Ukrainians will not submit. They've shot down vast amounts of Ukraine's helicopter fleet. They've shot down vast amounts of its first frontline fighter aircraft. They've destroyed 3,000 of Russia's tanks. The tanks Russia's bringing out of the depots now are from World War II and earlier. They're using donkeys on the battlefield. The Ukrainians have used drones. They've used intelligence. They've used speed. They've used stealth. They've used courage at scale. And we live in a world where they not only deserve to win, but that Russia deserves to be punished, that Putin deserves to hang by the neck until dead, that Putin needs to be, at best for him, his best case scenario should be he ends up in The Hague. He is a monster. He is a war criminal. We need to say these words in our culture and our country these days. Donald Trump's adoption of love for Vladimir Putin is possibly the most disgusting, reprehensible, vile, low, criminal thing that I've ever imagined I could see an American president doing. And he does it every day, and he's proud of it. All of this submission to Putin flies in the face of two big facts. Donald Trump has burned America's credibility in the world. Deliberately, by the way. This was a plan. This was not something that he just did randomly. But NATO has decided, and the Western world has decided, Ukraine's worth the fight. You save the world if you defeat Putin. You disrupt the emerging axis of evil if you defeat Putin. And whether America runs away or walks away, and Trump's running away as fast as he can because he loves his boy Vlad, Ukraine will fight. They will fight armed with weapons from Europe. By the way, the American defense industry, you guys made a bad fucking bet with Donald Trump. You made a bad fucking bet. 80% of every dollar we spent supporting Ukraine was spent through American defense companies. Good job, guys. Super good strategic play. But Ukraine will win. Putin is drained dry. His economy is a shambles. It's a wreck. He's politically on edge. He's not well mentally or physically. You can see it in the guy. The only thing that could have ever saved Vladimir Putin was Donald Trump. And Donald Trump's going to do his best to save him. So the question for Americans now is where you stand on this matter. I stand with Ukraine because Ukraine stands with stability and freedom and the West. We have an opportunity here to reset Europe. Yes, I know this is where I came in the first time at the end of the Cold War. But the war we're in now is a hot war. And that war will spread if America does not stand strong. That war will move further and further west. Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, the Balkans. He will take more and more territory if he's left unbounded. And Donald Trump wants him to do that. You understand this, right? Donald Trump wants him to take the rest of Europe. Donald Trump wants to divide the world between Xi in Asia, Putin in Europe, and Trump in America. It is literally the fate of the free world on the line. Right here. That line is the borders, the pre-2014 borders of Ukraine. Putin must be defeated. He's permanently near the very peak of the enemies list. Slava Ukraini, keep fighting. You're going to win. Take him out.